Hello everyone, this is TobeTada with another video of crypto trading. Thanks for checking by, and let's dive right in. So for today, I thought we would be doing something a little bit differently, and that would be basically comparing how Bitcoin relates to other crypto coins. And I would basically say that there is a difference of two basic coin types, and that would be basically coins that follow the movement of Bitcoin and other coins that do not follow the movement of Bitcoin, or to be more exact, they are basically moving in basically the opposite direction. So what I mean by that is, if we're looking at, for example, Stellar, which is a quite a popular alternative coin, you can see that the movement in general follows very closely to that of Bitcoin, especially if you look at the movement, the individual movements here, and you can see from the start of the peak, which was basically, or from the start of the last bullish movement here, you can say that this was basically happening the 1st of April, going now to about when we saw this correction in April 10th. And so you can see the basic repetition of this movement here. You can basically see a strong upward movement of about, I believe, 15 to 20% starting here, and the resulting correction going down. I have to draw this in a little bit differently. Basically going down to this was start of the correction here, so something around here. So basically this time period would correspond to the Bitcoin movement here, and you can see this is basically exactly what happened: an upward movement and a correction. Now, of course, these coins have individual patterns, and you can see that from the onset of this peak to the correction, there was now only remaining 5% profit. In Bitcoin, that is still 20%, so quite a bit different picture here. But basically the pattern is the same. You can see that there's been upward movement, and there are other coins which basically mimic this movement even better. You can see that basically here was starting in the early February, there was now a continual increase here, and with Bitcoin that was basically around this period. So basically we still had a downward before going upward again, but this basically corresponds very well to the Bitcoin movement. Now we still have other coins where this is basically not the case, and you can see that, for example, in BTT or FET or other coins, and they very often do exactly the opposite of what Bitcoin is doing. Or at least if we look at this part here, this was basically the start of the peak here, April 1st, and basically we see an increase here, which was definitely not 20%, it was probably around 10%, and then basically very soon having a correction back to where it started, which would have been basically the first correction here. But for Bitcoin, this was still going upward in general, so you can see that this is not reflected here, and instead we see actually a decrease of 15% by this first major correction here, which is basically this movement here. Now, since then, of course, it has somewhat rebounded again, but basically we're not seeing the pattern very strongly basically repeated here with this coin. Similarly, you can see this with, for example, FET, that where at the start of this peak, April 1st, going back to the correction, we actually saw also a loss of about 13%. Since then, it has again rebounded. and you can see basically these peaks were not very very marked basically. So the movement was basically a sideways movement, flat line movement, and then going back down to actually a new low. And so it makes sense to, if you're thinking about buying alternative coins, to know what type of coin they are. Are they going with Bitcoin, or are they going in the opposite direction? For example, if you're now thinking about buying FET, I think that would be an interesting option, because as we have done in the past, we have basically analyzed these fractals, and we have seen basically this fractal looking something like that. And you can see that this was basically evident here, also evident in the bigger part here, and I think also evident in this bigger part here, where we're going to see another very roughly a movement of this here. And so basically that would also indicate if we were expecting an increase here, it's probably going to mean that we're going to see a decrease in Bitcoin. You can basically use one analysis of one coin and project it onto another coin as well, if you know if they're basically going with Bitcoin or against Bitcoin basically. And that's a theory I'm testing as well. I'm not 100% sure how this stuff works, of course, but I think there is a good possibility for there being a fairly big increase here, going back down again after that, or perhaps going back up. We'll have to see about that. So let me know what you think. I'd be very interested, and see you next time. Bye.